位觀眾大家好，歡迎收睇26分鐘見證實錄。根據卑詩省嘅兒童家庭及社區服務法，任何人如果有理由相信一名未滿19歲嘅兒童或者青少年可能遭受虐待或者係忽視，而且父母無意或者係無力提供保護，咁都必須向兒童福利工作者報告有關嘅情況。不過，當政府依例執法，以保護兒童呢一個原因將小朋友帶走，咁樣又會對一個家庭嘅完整性構成幾大嘅傷害啦。我哋呢一集嘅節目，首先會聽一聽其中一個家庭嘅故事。
Currently, we cannot see Theo. We've been messaging the social workers that are working, the team leader and the social worker, and they referred us to the lawyer, and we haven't gotten any responses from them. It's already been 2 weeks now.
I wanted to pass my breast milk to my son, but they say, well, we are working on that, how to give to him or how can I pass on? And they said, talk with our lawyer, and they haven't responded anything more.
So when is your last time seeing Theo?
March 13th, the day of the Amber Alert.
(2025年3月13號下午1點幾，溫氏警方發布安柏警告，指一名帶住呼吸機嘅2歲孩童遭到綁架。幾個鐘頭之後，疑犯 Davis Lim 被警方拘捕。而畫面中被拘捕嘅疑犯 Davis Lim 正係男童嘅生父，佢因為不滿醫院嘅醫療決策，導致對兒子嘅監護權遭到撤銷，而呢一切都要從2年之前講起。
Yeah, our fourth child, Theo, he was born in Vernon at the hospital. How did it go?
He was born 36 weeks and 1 day in Vernon Hospital, and I didn't know that he has any issues before, and he was born 14 April and at 4 a.m. and after a few hours they said, yeah, airplane will be ready and you will be transferred to BC Children's Hospital.
Well, actually there were some issues at the beginning. The midwife, when they did the measurements for her stomach, it actually grew a bit too faster than normal. So we said, in order to help you with your fears, we'll just do a test and test for amniotic fluid, because we didn't want to do too much ultrasounds because they say it creates heat and there are some precautions we should be careful of. But anyway, they found out the fluid was more than normal, and the reason was because when he swallowed, he just swallows into a pouch, and his stomach, it came up his esophagus and it connected to his trachea. So after that was found out, yeah, your water broke and the water all over the hospital room.
In the 36 weeks?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So they did all the checkups, they didn't tell anything, they just said only airplane will be ready and you will be transferred. You don't have any other options.
Davis Lim 嘅細仔被診斷患有先天性疾病，出世之後就一直喺醫院接受治療。
So I came first with my son, and so my husband and my girls, they follow up after one week. So he needed a surgery after a few days, and it happened on Sunday. And yeah, they had to repair the, how do you call this?
The trachea, the esophagus.
Yeah, yes.
It's called
so
a
he can swallow.
Yeah, it's called the TEF, tracheal esophageal fistula. So it's when the esophagus makes a connection to the trachea. And we also found out he had issues. Vectoral is actually a term if there's genetic anomalies, so vertebral, anal atresia, TEF, limb abnormalities. And with our son, he's actually missing his thumb and also the one bone there, and his skull was fused a bit early here. And also he has a cardiac issue, his heart. He has his plumbing is a bit different, a double outlet left ventricle.
But with the heart issue, the doctor said he can live like still long life and doesn't bother him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
長達幾個月嘅時間裏面，Lim一家一直都喺卑詩兒童醫院陪伴並且照顧患病嘅細仔。 Davis Lim 曾經喺軍中擔任過醫護人員，佢對醫生嘅每一項治療方案都格外留意。就係喺一次同醫療團隊嘅溝通過程之中，雙方出現咗分歧。
When my son had that chest infection, and then he was infected again with the lungs and the blood, they wanted to continue, like he was clear, and then for 2 days, and later on they wanted to give the antibiotics, but they couldn't give it because it developed a clot in his foot. And so it was 10 p.m. and they wanted to wake him up and start another IV. Well, the last few days, I remember they tried to take blood from him, he's crying, they have a red light, they can't find a blood vessel, they keep poking, and even before that, they use an ultrasound, and he's just crying so much. And I said, enough is enough, we don't want you to wake him up, you give him morphine and all these sedatives, and you say rest is so important. He needs his rest, and I'm willing to take the chance that that it won't reoccur. And then later on, the doctor came and she says, if you don't listen to professional advice, we're gonna call the ministry. And I was like, excuse me, doctor, you know how much we love our child, we want the best for him, we're trying to work together. So that was a threat from that one doctor. So when the ministry got involved, they just wanted to really push it, because the doctors wanted to get their way and we weren't agreeing, so they could get the ministry to come in and take away our rights.
喺卑詩兒童廳剝奪咗 Davis Lim 嘅撫養權之後 ，Lim 夫婦飽受親子分離嘅痛苦。
When he was in a hospital, I was able to see him mostly every day. But then when they said, oh yeah, he's going to foster home, so they started to limit my visits. 1 week after another, a few days less every week. Few hours less every week, and I was shocked. What are they doing? Are they wanting me to be distanced from him, that he will kind of get used to me not be around with him? I was terrified because I have been with him all the time. I know how strong bond he has with me and the siblings. He is laughing. The siblings make him the most happiest boy in the world. And then when they completely finished my visits at the hospital, they said, okay, next meetings with Theo will be only twice a week, 2 hours a day at the MCFD office in a room, and you cannot go out, you just play with the little toys you have, and there is restrictions too. There will be supervisor, you're not allowed to talk with the caretakers who are coming to bring him there. You're not allowed to do any treatments like suctioning that we went through the training. And everything what we went through, I cannot do anything on him. Only change diaper and change clothes if I see it's needed.
And also we're not allowed to take pictures or take videos because we actually notice he's actually regressing. We have videos of him walking and he turns around and he walks, but we see he's actually getting worse.
When we saw him first at the MCFD office again, he wasn't so excited to see us anymore. And I said, can you say mama? He didn't say that. And he used to say that before. And I cried inside of me. And when I show in the book, show numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, he wasn't doing that anymore. And he was emotionless, or something is different with him. And I don't know how to explain that. Mm-hmm. And that drives me crazy.
2025年3月13號 ，Davis Lim 按照預約嘅時間，如期嚟到指定地點同兒子見面。
So I get there with my daughters, and my wife is outside. She's meeting with our friends, a reporter, and they want to protest. And when we get there, I take a photo with my girls, and then we go in. I see a van, and I go there. I see my son, and oh, hi Theo, good to see you. Okay, I'm so happy I'll see you soon. And then I go into the office. I go into the office, and the social worker, she says that we saw you taking photos. And also you didn't come right in through the door. Why did you go through the van? I said, I took photos, it was off the property. And she says, your girls have to go inside. I said, can they stay here? No, we're gonna cancel the visit if they don't go inside. So I said, okay, girls, go inside the room. So they go inside the room. And she said, because your girls are here, we're gonna let the visit happen. But you're pushing the limits by taking photos and also you should come straight into the door. So I said, yes, I'm sorry. You know, it was off the property I took the photos. And so after I go into the room, and she comes in later on and she says, the visits are canceled. And I was so furious. And I said, what about the breast milk? We brought breast milk for Theo. Okay, I'll grab the breast milk. I'll bring it to them. And that's where I went to the front desk. I said, I want my phone back. I took it out of the lockbox. I took it out. I went to the taxi. And I said, I want to see my son. I haven't seen him for 2 weeks. This is wrong. Why are you canceling my visit? I want my visit. And she says, nope, you cannot see your son. The visit is canceled. And I was just so frustrated. And I saw him hooked up to the vent. He was in there. And I decided, unbuckle, take the vent, and I just took him.
呢一次嘅衝動令佢成為咗安柏警報嘅通緝對象，並且導致佢同兒子原本每週2次嘅探訪權都被取消。喺2025年12月之前，佢哋將無法再透過兒童及家庭發展廳嘅申請安排同兒子見面。
Well, we have an email quite a few weeks back, over a month back. We asked, what can we do to facilitate the reunification of the family? The social worker, she says, that's not going to happen. We do not want the reunion. There's no way that Theo will be reunified with
They
your
don't
family.
even plan to reunite us.
There's no plan. And so as parents, you know, we want to do a stop injunction for the foster care, you know, during the appeal. We just want to raise our kids, you know, be happy in life, and to go through all this court, the amount of time and stress and money, it's
Draining all the juice out from the families, money, health, everything. Like,
for me, what makes me really frustrated is like you go to the hospital and at first, okay, we're gonna try to help your child to get well. But later on, oh, these parents don't follow what we follow. And then they do what they want. And instead of getting our son out, they make him so complex.
為咗幫自己嘅小家庭發聲，2025年4月4號，Lim一家再次嚟到兒童廳屬下嘅 Link 辦公室附近進行和平示威。
Happy birthday, happy birthday to Jenly.
而喺和平嘅抗議持續幾分鐘之後，溫氏警方就出現。
Talk to over here for a minute, please.
We just have to talk with you.
Hey,
It's in your condition. You have an elderly, right?
I'm on public property. Please let go of me.
No, you're under arrest. Okay?
I'm on public property. Don't let go of my arm.
You're under arrest. Put your
I'm
hand
not
on your
under
arm.
arrest.
Yes, you are.
What is going on? What are you kicking me?
Davis Lim 當日遭到拘捕之後，被送往醫院驗傷，然後帶返拘留所，簽下咗一份新嘅保釋文件。其中一項新增嘅條件係禁止佢出現喺卑詩兒童及家庭發展廳屬下任何一個辦公室嘅一個街區範圍之內，令佢請願帶回兒子嘅訴求提升到刑事程度，案件進入司法程序。林蕭同佢家人嘅故事引發起公眾對於兒童廳職權嘅思考。咁樣喺撫養權同家庭完整性之間究竟應該點樣揾到平衡點？咁兒童廳又係點樣解讀相關嘅政策呢？我哋下一節翻嚟再睇。歡迎翻嚟節目時間。喺較早之前，一班因為卑詩兒童與家庭發展廳政策而失去咗撫養權嘅父母，走上街頭舉行咗和平示威，呼籲對現行嘅制度進行改革，並且強調防止家庭分離嘅必要性。抗議集會嘅組織者 Deborah Abraham 表示，原本應該保護兒童嘅系統，卻造成家庭破碎同無法彌補嘅傷害。佢認為現行嘅兒童家庭及社區服務法，令政府喺缺乏監管同文化適當替代方案嘅情況之下，凌駕於父母權利。
I used to be a ministry social worker. The reason I resigned 12 years ago was because of these practices, because of the trauma and the overrepresentation of Indigenous and racialized families that are in this system. That the ministry, the MCFD, they disconnect the emotional bond that you have with your family, with the children, and they're left traumatized. These are lifelong traumas. We know what this does, what removing children from their home, from their family, from their community has done. We've already done this, people. This is history again. It's covered up in the Child Family Community Services Act, where social worker has the right to come in and take your child and disconnect you, and disconnect them from the very life that feeds them.
而當日參與集會嘅另一名家長 Willow Sky Speakers 表示，佢喺2022年嘅時候，亦都曾經被卑詩兒童廳剝奪咗孩子嘅撫養權。
So 3 years ago, I was the subject of an Amber Alert. I didn't realize the severity of such a thing that would happen to me. My son got sick with a bacteria infection at Surrey Memorial, and I went in to get IV drips for antibiotics for him, and then they wanted to do an invasive procedure called a lumbar puncture, and they wanted to test if he had meningitis. I didn't want that invasive procedure because my son did not look like he had meningitis. He didn't look like he had a brain infection. So I said no, and what are the other options? And instead of presenting me options, they immediately got the ministry involved. And they said, we acknowledge that you're here today, but we're going to take your child out of your custody anyway. And they took custody out of my hands. Now I was no longer the parent, the guardian of my child. Me and his father were no longer the guardian. And we weren't allowed to be in the hospital with him anymore. So they kicked us out, just like that. And that was 3 days.
而針對省民對於現行兒童家庭及社區服務法以及卑詩兒童與家庭發展廳涉嫌濫權嘅擔憂，廳長 Jody Wickens 韋群斯就回應指，保障兒童嘅福祉始終係省府嘅首要任務，但係同時亦都強調所有人都必須依法行事，尊重事實。
So we have legislation, we have a law in place called the Child, Family and Community Services Act, and that really determines how we interact with families, particularly when there are concerns for a child's well-being or their safety. And so we are required by that law, when there are concerns, to work with families collaboratively to address those concerns wherever possible. The removal of a child is always the very last resort in any circumstance. And so whenever families are facing challenges and my ministry gets involved, frontline or direct service staff, social workers will work with those families on things called family planning, provide supports and services in the community. That might be working with the family on a plan. That could be referrals to other services like Success or Mosaic or ISS of BC. But really we work with the legislation that exists in the Child, Family, Community Services Act, and we always want children to be with their families. We know that children have better outcomes when they're connected to their culture, their community, and their family. And so that's a little bit about sort of the law that we work with in child and family development in this province.
佢指出，涉及撤銷撫養權嘅案件通常情況複雜，牽涉多重因素，而相關嘅決策本身亦都經常面對住機構內部嘅壓力同挑戰。
These are very difficult decisions, and they're not made lightly. And it's also very rare to remove a child from their environment, particularly for things like medical reasons. It doesn't happen very often, and all of that information is taken into account when these decisions are made.
面對外界對現行系統嘅質疑同埋持續嘅改革呼聲，韋群斯表示，省府已經增加對兒童及家庭服務嘅投入，旨在加強同家庭嘅聯繫。
We are always looking at how we can do better, and we can always do better. I recognize that as a mom and as someone who has delivered these services and received these services. That's where our oversight bodies come into play. The representative of children and youth and the ombudsperson provide us with recommendations, and then we respond to those recommendations, and we do make policy changes. We also make investments. My ministry has increased its budget by $321 million this year. And so what that does is that increases resources for families. Our direct service staff have increased by 20%. And so that means that social workers will connect in with families more often. And so there are a number of things that we always are trying to do to improve our system. There's always more work to be done. There is nothing more important to me as the minister than the well-being of children. And I understand how difficult these situations are for parents. Parents love their children, and they're very challenging moments when there are questions around safety and concerns. And so we will always work with families. We will always want children to be in their homes. Nobody wants a child to not be in their home. That is my number one priority and goal, is to keep children safe and to make sure that they're connected with their families, because we know that's the best.
而卑詩保守黨兒童及家庭發展事務評論員 Amelia Bowby 就批評省府喺兒童福祉相關決策上缺乏透明度，並且指出其中有好多地方係有待改革。
I think the government needs to be a lot more transparent about how bad of shape this ministry is in. The public knows it. Social workers and child protection workers know it. Anyone in the industry or who has interacted with it knows it. So when we continue to hear from the government that everything is fine, that really erodes public trust. So they need to admit that it's in a bad state of affairs. And secondly, the outstanding recommendations from the representative for children and youth need to be implemented. There are 72 recommendations, and as of today's date, only 11 of them have been implemented. 40% of these recommendations have zero progress.
佢亦都對本省現行嘅兒童福利系統表示擔憂。
I believe the child welfare system here in British Columbia is on the brink of collapse. It's in a terrible state of affairs where even if people do have concerns about child safety, they're afraid to call because they're afraid of what might happen, whether the child ends up in foster care or a group home where there are serious safety concerns. The representative for children and youth has outlined that thousands of critical injuries and over 100 deaths occurred last year under MCFD's watch. So it's really important that in order to rebuild trust, the efficiency of these systems gets rebuilt. In my view, the government is not here to raise children or tell people how to parent their children. The government is there in cases where parents need support or in serious cases where, due to safety or other parenting concerns, intervention has to happen. I think parental rights are very important, and it is a delicate balance, but I have seen cases on both sides where the government is not intervening in cases of safety quick enough, and I have also seen them intervene when it's not necessary and tell people how to parent children, which is also concerning.
The ministry has had this power for too long, and they have used it, they have walked all over it, they have justified it. There's social workers that lie, they go into court, and parents and families have no say. This is your child. How can you have no say in what happens to them? You're removing children and apprehending them without justification. There are so many Charter of Rights violations with this act.
They believe that the system and the hospitals and the schools are the only ways to raise children, and they force that upon children and fit them in a box of what health looks like in their eyes. And that causes an issue because parents should be the parents, not the government.
We were very blessed to have this boy, our son Theo. We've learned so much. I knew nothing about benzodiazepines, Ativan, Xanax, bacterial association, chromosome defects, cardiac defects.
That makes him even more special for us.
Mm-hmm.
We would be doing anything to keep him thriving, happy, healthy.
Because who else would take care of their family members than the family?
好啦，今集嘅節目時間就差唔多啦。咁如果觀眾對我哋嘅節目有啲乜嘢意見嘅話，係好歡迎大家以電郵嘅方式同我哋聯絡㗎。我哋嘅電郵地址係mag26@fairchildtv.com。 如果觀眾想上網重溫今集嘅節目，亦都可以上到去我哋嘅網站3w.fairchildtv.com， 點擊節目重溫一欄就可以睇得返㗎啦。下星期同樣時間再同大家見面，晚安。